Thank you, Jaeseung. Thank you all for being here for that second session where we will discuss about smart and sustainable cities, and looking especially on the need for trustworthy and human-centric digital ecosystems. So the séance is quite packed today because we have a row of 5 speakers and we will be 2 moderators on seat. So I will be together with Mr. Jeong Hyeok, also from the Ministry of Land and Infrastructures. How do we get the slides being on the screen? I don't know. I don't have the slides. Yeah. Ah, she's coming. Thank you. Just a quick word about me, so you know about my mindset. Maybe it will help understand where I go. I'm Franck from EGM, a French company. We are involved in developing open source and standardized software, mostly dealing with smart cities and territories. We have one software which is a part of Stelio, Twin Peaks and so on, which are in the ecosystem, which will be presented later on. I'm also chair of a standardization committee in ETSI, which is a European Telecom for Standard Institute. And finally, I'm also part of InPace project, where I'm in charge of more. Okay, I have the flag of innovation and entrepreneurship lead in the project, and also I'm leader of the second cluster, which is looking at innovation and entrepreneurship for sustainable well-being. Maybe if you would like to say a few words about you.
Thank you. Hello everyone, my name is Deonjo from KAIA. KAIA is a Korea agency for infrastructure and technology advancement, and which is sponsored by MORI, Ministry of Land, Infrastructure and Transportation. So basically I'm working at, it's a strategic part for smart cities and many advanced technology. Especially I'm a former program director of National Smart City Strategic Program in Korea from 2018 to 2021. So this session, I think we are thinking about the future of smart city beyond the smart cities. Basically, traditionally smart city focused on the ICT-driven smart cities, but we're thinking about the digital transformation and social inclusion, and how can we combine the advanced technology, for example, AI and digital twin and IoT technology also. So I hope this session will be good lessons and good, the guiding light for future smart city. Thank you.
Thank you. So to also set a bit the scene, I will just put a few slides on where we stand from the European perspective. So you probably heard that there are a number of acts which have been pushed by the Commission, which helps or which set even sometimes the regulation in Europe. So there is, for example, the Data Act, which is about encouraging secure, fair and trusted exchange of data. We can mention the Digital Service Act, which is about, or which is addressing all issues with illegal content, which is advocating transparent advertising and misinformation. There is also the Interoperable Europe Act, which is about setting interoperable or setting a legal framework for cross-border exchange over Europe. And there is quite recently the EU Artificial Act, which is, let's say, one of the first common legal comprehensive framework for AI, which is putting a number of things on the paper and which raise a number of questions on how to make it in practice. So that's also our job as technologists to look at these acts and provide technological answers to how enable them, because that's not written in the text. Also, where we come from, we have been working quite a lot in the past on semantic interoperability, data exchange, how to exchange data in an interoperable way. That's where we have been working on standardization in ETSI. And quite happy that also these specifications are in use in India, in South Korea, in Japan. In Singapore, not yet, I think, but I think they're starting looking at it as well. So it's a baseline also for future collaboration. But now we need to think forward, and the European Commission is going one step further, and they're pushing now what they call the local digital twin, the Cityverse. So they have been launching big programs. They call it EDIC, which is a grouping of different states in Europe which are going together. And one of them is looking at local digital twin and Cityverse, which is kind of metaverse for the city. So I expect that in the session we invited a number of speakers. So it's going to be quite difficult probably, because I will ask my speakers to more be in a pitch like approach, because we have only 1 hour ahead of us. So being short, so hopefully we'll have time for questions afterward. So we'll start with Mr. Challagonda, who is CEO of the Fireware Foundation, who will present us about interoperable and cross-sectorial data spaces. Then with Mr. Inder Gopal from India, who will present how they are dealing with data to go for city transformation in India. Then Mr. Park, who will present ideas to have means to evaluate carbon neutrality level of cities, because it's good to say we are smart cities, but then if we want to be carbon neutral at some point, maybe we need some KPIs for that. Ms. Dr. Iwunli, then we will present the program, the approach on the current level side for smart cities, and last but not least, we'll finish with Mr. Professor Jeong Kim, who will present his call for the digital twin campus. We had MOU signature yesterday where we agreed that we will collaborate in these aspects, so I think this will be a nice presentation. Let's start then with the next presentation of Mr. Challagonda. Either sit or up, as you prefer.
I can complete my steps. Yeah, hello everybody. Thanks, Frank. So, myself, I'm just 2 weeks old into the CEO role of Fireware Foundation, but I have been in the Fireware Foundation ecosystem or Fireware ecosystem for more than 10 years. So, as a contributor, as a person who built the company based on Fireware architecture, plus being a board member, then I joined as an architect on the technical side. So I've evolved into many roles. Finally, right now I'm made as a CEO, selected as a CEO by the board. Okay, so I'm going to talk about the importance of the interoperable and the cross-sectorial interoperable data exchanges and the data spaces. And most of you, how many of you are aware here about data spaces, which we are talking a lot in Europe? Because I know whenever I cross the continents, it's the same term, but it's the same meaning, but it's the term changes. How many of you all know about data spaces? Ah, that's good. I think non-Europeans also know about it. That's very good. So. I spoke to USA and they say that it's called a data exchange framework in USA, and in also some parts in Asia they also call it as a data exchange framework. So I would like to actually start some presentation about interoperable and cross-sectorial, so why we need it and how we can achieve it. I'm not going to give you I would like to step into my architecture cap as a habit and go into details of it, but I don't want to go there, but at least I will put a framework that how we can achieve that one. It's important also that not only in the context of in-pace, but in a general, the global data exchange is enabled and happens seamless, because there are many reasons for that actually. So I just say that what is the data space as such. So there are sovereign platforms all over the world. They want to also keep their data, agree, and also have the legal framework followed, which is dictated by the place where they are. and then they would like to share only data which is needed for the business purpose or for travel or tourism purpose with the rest of the platforms. So all these platforms can join a data space, which is a virtual cloud, which is not, there is no centralized server which is kept somewhere in the middle of the ocean where everyone is sitting and attaching their platform. So it's basically a virtual cloud, enabling the data exchange, ensuring that people get only, people get, or the other platforms get data only which is needed, not more than, not less, and still they should be able to control their own data. That is the idea. Moving forward, why do we need actually this one? So we have created a lot of great digital platforms. We actually started with opening the silos, let the data flow and all this. But we still ended up creating more silos. So maybe we integrated the local different infrastructures, different platforms. Say, for example, in the city, we were able to successfully integrate the utilities, the weather, transportation, for example. But it is still inside the city. But why can't I actually use the same city card or the travel card when I cross the border? Because in Europe, it's a single digital market. The data should flow as such. So why it not? So that's where actually the thinking has started. Then how do we ensure that the data is acquired and the solutions are provided? So here again, data space, please don't keep the data space only for the data. It's also for the services. So a service which I developed on my platform here can be useful somewhere else. It might be solving the same problem somewhere else. But without actually I go there and deploy my service on that platform, how can I still enable an access to my service so that the people from other geographies can access it? So that is also another. And this is very important for private sector for scalability and market growth. Then we still have a lack of transparency and traceability. So we don't know exactly, we provide an API access, but we don't know exactly why and where that data is going and who is using it. Once it is out, it's out. So particularly the AI adoption actually has driven a lot of these things because these AI models are hungry for data. So they are grabbing every data which is available out there and training their models and offering the solutions. And I'd like to introduce a term called provenanced data, which means that the data is validated. Data has all the approvals of the data owner and the data originator. And there is a trace of that data, where it came from, who has updated and when it was tampered or not, is it a real data? So this is what we need right now. So we don't need all the data because now we need a provenance data where we basically can assure that this is the right data and not tampered. What does it mean? Easy acquisition for the data and the services. The target market expansion for a private sector, because the private sector is, unless we have a private sector motivated and excited about these things, it will still stay as a regulation, still stay as a government initiative. Then we need to get trust and traceability across the borders. Why we need this cross-sectorial interoperability? So why are we talking about this now? So we have been living for quite a many thousands of years happily. So now why we need it? We have a growing AI adoption. So we were talking to some of the areas in the world, developing countries. They were actually saying that the current AI solutions are not addressing their concerns because the data, it's not being trained on that data. So for example, some of the LLMs are not accurate not even 50% accurate for African region. For Europe and in USA, they are almost 90%. Then digital product passports. I think this is the main, one of the main initiatives which is coming up, is every product which is imported now should have digital product passports. It's not only the governments asking for it, it's consumers are also asking for it. They just want to scan a QR code and they need to get where the raw material has originated, how much carbons have been emitted transferring this one, how much carbons have been emitted producing this, and how much I am getting. So what is my carbon footprint? This is only one example. It's only a sustainability aspect of it. Privacy and personal data exchange both goes in time to time. So for example, if I'm living in one country in Europe, and if I cross the border, and if I I don't wish for it, but if I meet an accident or something and an ambulance needs to access my data, so they need to really have an access of critical information, what I need, what are the allergies I have, and all these things. So this needs to be ensured, and privacy policies should not hinder this, because this is a matter of life and death. Then the energy, agriculture, these are all cross-sectorial, getting more. Finance is important, manufacturing, mobility, and tourism, because we are all sharing our data with booking.coms and all these things right away without knowing what we're doing. But we have to ensure that this is also done properly. Well, how we achieve this one? I'm not going to go very deep into it. A data interface agreement, because if a platform joins a data space, it's not enough. It needs to ensure that whatever the data it is sending or whatever the service they are providing, it needs to be interpretable, understandable by others. So if you're talking about a data space where there will be thousands of platforms participating in it, you can't actually have 1,000 different interfaces, 1,000 different data models there. So it's important to have a single streamlined data model. I know it's impossible to agree on this, because some people want to have, say, MQTT is the best, and some people want to use APIs, REST APIs. So we are still arguing about that. But it is important to have a good governance model in the place so that which ensures this happens. Trace and provenance, this is one of the most important thing, that we need to understand how much data, what type of data, who tampered with it, is it really an authenticated data, is it directly coming from the data originator, or is it being curated? Trust and verification, so a data owner, when they share the data, they need to understand where it is going and how it is used. That is all about the sovereignty. Then I can't emphasize more that data space is not a technical solution. It's a combination. Technical part is only 30 to 40%, my point of view. It's the governance model of the data space, especially across the borders, across the sectors. So that's all I would like to say. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Chandra. So I suggest that we move to the next speaker, who will collect the questions at the end, even if... so we'll go for the second. Yes. For the data space topic, I don't know if it's a topic in South Korea. We have not seen much on data space today in South Korea, so maybe at some point we could discuss at the end on what are the positions. And then the next speaker will be Dr. Gopal on what is happening on India, the side of smart cities. Yes, it will arrive. It takes a few seconds to arrive there.
Right. Oh, okay. Hi. Good morning. Actually, it's probably good afternoon. Sorry. So I'm a professor at the Indian Institute of Science, which actually is one of the oldest institutions, research institutions in India. And I also run something called the Center of Data for Public Good, which is kind of affiliated with the university. And in the Center of Data for Public Good, we have built a whole bunch of different data spaces, to use the in vogue term. I'm going to tell you a little bit about it, very briefly. And our focus really is technology, right? We're basically a bunch of software developers, software engineers, creating open source code. But what we have found is, in this kind of an area, it's very difficult to just write code. I mean, what you've really got to do is implement a real system and actually solve real problems. Otherwise, you don't know whether what you're doing is actually adding any value to anyone. So we have actually built a whole bunch of real systems that are in production in cities, in 52 different cities in India, and in the agricultural sector, in the health sector, in geospatial. So there's a whole variety of different things that we have done in India. And I'll just very briefly allude to it, and I'm happy to talk more during the course of the day. So let me kind of start by talking a little bit about technology, and maybe boring you guys a little bit, and then we'll talk a little bit about how we're using the technology. So this is to add to my friend Chandra's view, I mean, this is kind of what, at least our view of a data space is, very much focused around something at the core of it, which is a data exchange, but then you have data at the bottom, you have ecosystem, you have a governance mechanism, policy, economic issues, and so forth. So a data space is actually a very complicated thing, but at the core is some technology. So let's just kind of drill in a little bit and talk about that technology, and then I'll talk a little bit about a piece of that in slightly more detail. So the technology is essentially a middleware platform that sits in the cloud. At the bottom is a bunch of data that kind of feeds into that middleware platform. And this data can be from public or private sources. It can be personal or non-personal data, right? So a lot of the data increasingly is personal data. It has PII information either explicitly or implicitly. And on the top, you see a bunch of applications that are being developed. These may be in the space of mobility, in the space of safety, public safety, you have use cases, and then increasingly you have training of AI models, right? So data is being used, being sourced from this, going through the middleware, and then being used to train models, right? And this could be done by governments, startups, industry, and so forth. So the middleware is, in our case, all open source, entirely 100% open source, and consists of two broad components. One is what we call the control functions, which basically allow you to find data, right? Where is the data that you need to solve a particular problem? So there's metadata, there's descriptors of data, there's searchable ways in which, programmatically searchable ways in which you can get data, and then you can also get authorization and consent for the data, right? So this is all controlling the flow of the data. And then there's a data plane which actually moves the data, right? So initially what it does is it transfers the data to a standard API. So we are using the same set of APIs that are prevalent in Europe, NGSI LD, which are standardized by ETSI. And that's done in runtime, right? As the data, so the data is actually stored not in the exchange is just a transit. The data is actually stored externally. At the time that someone wants the data, it's pulled out, translated into the appropriate format, presented through the standardized API, right? Standardized format and standardized API. And then on top of that, there are two things which are kind of unique to what we are doing, right? Which I'll talk about a little bit more. One is something that I call a privacy framework, which as the data is being moved through, it essentially it cleans the data, right? It gets rid of all the personal identifying information associated with the data. And then there's an analytics framework which creates a set of AI/ML frameworks and so forth, which allows data to be used by the application in a very easy fashion. The privacy framework is actually something I want to talk a little bit more about and delve into slightly more detail. I think there was a question, actually I attended one of these AI sessions yesterday, and somebody asked a question, well, if I'm training an AI model and the data is from India, how do I know that data conforms to GDPR, right? And how can I trust that data, right? I think I forget who asked that question, but somebody, oh, you did, okay, you did ask that question. So the answer is you cannot, right? You cannot trust the data, right? There's absolutely no way that you can. But what you can do is you can use technological solutions to perhaps clean the data in some fashion, right? To remove personal identifying information and put it through a privacy filter, right? And that's essentially what we try to do, right? So I'm not going to spend time here, but just to give you a sense, there's a hierarchy of data that we have. There's open data, which everyone can get hold of. There's high-value data, which is not necessarily sensitive or personal data, but it has some value, so you want to protect who gets access to it. So you want things like authorization, access control, and so forth. And then there's on the top of it, the top of the hierarchy is personal and sensitive data. So this might be things like health data, financial data, various perhaps national security data. And here what you want to do is you want to be very, very careful in the way you release data, right? And there's a set of privacy enhancing technologies that have been developed in the community, right? Which are in various degrees of maturity, right? So things like differential privacy, for example, secure multi-party compute, homomorphic encryption, right? You know, the federated learning. These are all kind of the technical terms. In different cases, they do different things, and they allow you to move data in such a way that it essentially makes the data secure and allows you. Got it. I think he's kind of going to give me the yank very soon. So, I want to just show this slide, and I'm not going to talk to it, but basically there will be three, what I have here is a way in which different technologies, right, are used in different ways. So for example, on the left-hand side, there's something called a secure compute environment, where you have data from different sources, the data might be sensitive, you want to train a model, a shared AI model, but without divulging the data in any way, right? So you want to create a secure computing platform for that, and there are things like SMPC, secure multi-party compute. There's a whole variety of cryptographic techniques, right, that are being used there, right? In the middle, what you're trying to do is you're trying to bring in sensitive data. You want to expose only data that does not have private information to the model itself, and there you use things like differential privacy or k-anonymity. There are various techniques like that. The picture on the right is where you rather than having a single model, right, which you train and bring data in and have exposure, security and privacy exposure, what you do is you push the learning out to the edges of the network, right, the edges of the system. You do distributed learning, and then you aggregate the model, and that's called federated learning, right? So again, you know, just to give you a sense of what these buzzwords mean. But what we've done is we've brought it all together, right? We've brought it all together. We've taken all these different techniques, brought it all together, and created this layer of a privacy framework. And this is something that I think actually could be very interesting in terms of a collaboration opportunity, because it's done as open source. We are funded by the Ministry of Electronics and IT in India, and we're building this platform, this suite of technologies as a layer of privacy-enhancing technologies that actually I think could be valuable not just for India, but potentially for collaborators on a global basis. Anyway, let me end with this slide. This is, I promised, my last slide. What we have done is, as I mentioned before, worked in a whole bunch of different areas, right? And I can tell you more details. IUDX, maybe some of you may have heard it. It's deployed in 52 Indian cities. It employs a lot of the technologies that I talked about. Agricultural data exchange is a particular large state in southern part of India, state of Telangana. And that deploys a lot of the personal identifying protection technologies that we talked about. There's something we're doing in the state of Chhattisgarh that relates to private benefits. And then we're also working on healthcare data, actually, which has a lot of personal information and something that I think we're very excited about the opportunity to play in that space. So let me stop here and turn it over back to Franck.
Thanks a lot, Inder, for the presentation. Yes, next time we think about symposium, we'll have to think about bigger sessions. I don't know, because we... I'm going to welcome the next speaker, Mr. Park, who will present us his idea or his work even on KPIs framework for carbon neutral cities. And I think that could be an interesting also presentation. And I know there are some interaction or some activities going in Europe on this aspect as well. So Dr. Park, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon. I'm thrilled to be here today to introduce our key project of carbon neutral city. Actually, as some of you know, I was supposed to attend the in-face workshop in Jeju Island, but due to a minor accident, I couldn't make it. I'm a Dr. Jeong Hyeok, not professor, from K-Water, not Seoul National University. Okay. Globally, there are a lot of talk about solving the urban issues, including carbon neutral and inclusive growth. Yet, we often don't know the current status of our cities or how much we are contributing to the global climate crisis. I believe this lack of understanding is one of the key problems. The purpose of my presentation is focus on the answers about two questions regarding KPI for carbon neutral cities. Okay, then let's dive into the first question. I introduced this slogan last Friday, yeah. And I believe everyone here is familiar with this slogan. When you talk about sustainable growth and development, as well as inclusive growth, the first step is accurately understand the current state of our cities. But unfortunately, due to the unique characteristic of cities in each country, it is difficult to apply one-size-fits-all standards to evaluate them. That's why I believe we're at a point where we need a solution to address this challenge. As you can see the picture on the slide, even within a single city, there is a diverse infrastructure and lifestyle. This is the second question. Within just one city, we can see stark differences in infrastructures and lifestyle. By closely analyzing these differences, we can identify which areas are more vulnerable. It's not just about blindly adopting technology and advanced system. Before adopting this system or technique, we need to identify vulnerable areas and create solutions specifically tailored to them. This should be part of a process when planning and building carbon neutral cities. Okay, I'm looking to answer two questions through KPI for carbon neutral cities. Okay, as you well know, the UN SDG have established 17 goals to achieve sustainable development and pursuing for them by 2030. Specifically, as you can see, the UN SDG include two goals directly related to the cities. The international standard organizations are striving to reduce confusion among various stakeholders and enhance interoperability by establishing and managing numerous standards to achieve the UN SDGs. However, when we actually try to apply these international standards to cities, we face challenges. This is due to the regional differences, as well as the varying lifestyle and infrastructures to each city. Cities inevitably produce carbon emission as population concentrate. Indeed, many papers and research reports suggest that by 2050, 70% of the world's population will live in cities, and over 75% of the world's carbon emission will come from these urbanized areas. The climate change that accompany urbanization threatens us with a vicious cycle structure where it deteriorates quality of life. Therefore, ironically, the inconvenience that we must endure to reduce carbon emission in cities ultimately improve the quality of life. For this reason, many countries and cities around the world have started to join groups and discuss common standards and responses, such as Race to Zero campaign, and the Coalition of 21, and the Climate Leadership Group per city. One of the common themes discussed in the campaign and solidarity is the need for accurate evaluation method and indicators. Okay, carbon neutrality is a highly challenging issue to gauge as it is invisible and difficult to estimate. Moreover, assessing carbon neutrality through sample survey can be even more difficult and risky. Hence, I believe the first step toward achieving carbon neutrality is to develop evaluation indicators. Okay, this slide shows that our project for ISO standards. So I'm gonna skip this. As we can see, there are gaps associated with the ISO's standard for carbon neutrality. IW842 does not consider regional variation, and environmental domain is not distinguished. And ISO 37120 evaluate urban services and quality of life with standardized indicators, and particularly environmental indicators are evaluated with statistical variables. This gap implies that we need to develop more comprehensive and effective measures to tackle carbon neutrality at the city level. From this gap, I suggest develop a key performance indicator for the achieve and evaluation of carbon neutral cities. The title of new standards is Indicators for Carbon Neutral Cities. This slide compares the structure of our proposal with other standards. We plan to create a method that take into account both emission and reduction to achieve actual natural emission, while also being specialized for carbon neutrality by applying it in mutually supportive way with the evaluation system related to smart city, resilient city, and ESG. Okay, I only have 1 minute. This slide shows the KPI for TC268 of ISO. Okay, due to the time limitation, I'm gonna skip this. Okay, our KPI are going to consist of 2 parts, as you can see. After KPI for carbon neutral cities are developed, we are planning to apply them as a pilot project in the Busan Eco-Delta Smart City, which K-Water is currently developing. As I already mentioned before, the black line is Busan Eco-Delta Workfront City, and red dashed line shows the Busan Eco-Delta Smart City. Okay, that's everything I've prepared. Thank you so much for your attention.
Okay, thanks a lot. No, it was a nice presentation. I was wondering if maybe we could discuss, if we have time afterward, because I think there are some complementary or similar activities on the ITU side and HC side, and maybe the guys from Martel knows about what is happening there. So maybe side discussions will be interesting afterward. I suggest now we move to the next speaker, with Dr. Lee, who will present us the global program on Kaya side related to smart cities.
Hello, my name is Hyewon Lee. I'm from Kaya. Through this opportunity, I want to introduce our organizations and then what we are doing in terms of smart cities internationally, in terms of international collaboration, and also what we are trying to do in the future. First of all, the Kaya is a Korean agency for infrastructure technology advancement, which is National R&D Funding and Management Agency under the Ministry of Land, Infrastructure and Transport. We call it shortly MOLIT. Our annual R&D budget is about 306 million euros, which is quite not a big portion compared to the whole Korea's national R&D funding, which is about 17 billion euros. But it actually is more like dedicated to the infrastructure and mobility and practical R&D sectors. This is a quite main achievements we have done throughout our R&D in the sector of infrastructure. We have done like a super long span bridge and skyscraper buildings and LNG plants, etc. And in urban housing sectors, we have done some R&D in the zero energy housings and modular building and smart city security services. And also a quite big scale smart city R&D program has been implemented for the past 5 years by us as well. And in the transport sectors, the high-speed electric multiple unit or urban transit, the maglev train. There are some quite diverse projects that has been implemented in the transport sector as well. There are quite diverse partners we have in the regions internationally, like Belgium, China, Netherlands, and Finland, etc. In this chapter, I want to introduce about what Korea Smart City Project has, how the Korea Smart City Project has been implemented. We have a Smart City Creation and Industry Promotion Act. And in the Act, the Smart City has been defined as a sustainable city wherein various city services are provided based upon the city infrastructure constructed by converging, integrating construction technologies, information and communication technology, etc., to enhance its competitiveness and livability. Korea Smart City Project has been sort of initiated around 2004 in a format of building a new town, constructing a new town. We call it UCT. This concept has been built up and developed around 2014 to provide representative public services through one integrated platform, which has been also developed in the third phase. That smart city concept has been brought up, and the smart city R&D program has been started from 2018. This is the smart city R&D program that we have done, which has been initiated from 2018 and lasted for 5 years. Total funding has been provided about $120 million US, and it's been co-funded by MOLI, which is our Ministry of Land, Infrastructure and Transport, and Ministry of Science and ICT. The concept of a Smart City R&D program is to develop open data hub, urban data hub system. Has the architecture and system has been developed in the project 1, and that open data hub has been applied to provide, the services which has been demonstrated in the quite larger scale city named Daegu, which has about 2.5 million people in population. So in the second project, we call it in project 2. In that project, based upon the open data hub, we demonstrated services like mobility services, disaster management services being demonstrated in the Daegu city. And then third project is to bring the open data hub demonstrated in the smaller size city. We picked up city named Siheung, which is about 500,000 people in population. And in the city, we demonstrated like removing dust services, environment services, and also energy efficiency services for people, the residents living in an apartment, and our social healthcare services has been demonstrated in the city. But this is another project that we call the National Pilot Smart City Projects. One is the Jeong 5-1 district project, and the other one is Busan Eco Delta project, which has been introduced by Dr. Park previously. This pilot smart city project is to designating empty lands, slot of lands in certain areas, and bringing all the advanced technologies to demonstrate the services in the area, which has been started from about 2019, but still ongoing. Other smart city projects being implemented by MOLI is encompassing the regulatory sandbox, and innovative technology, local government level smart city projects, and also we're providing some education services, providing funding 6 universities to foster human resources, and also convergence alliances. Smart city convergence alliances is to bring all the smart city related technology companies, which is about 800 institutions or companies, to brought up together to bring the synergy. Smart City Global Network. MOLI is operating KCT network projects, which is supporting the Korean technology companies who want to bring their technology outside of Korea. So the government's providing funds to let them get into the international market, so they can actually bring their technologies to let their technology being demonstrated in the cities outside of Korea, and let them have an opportunity to get their technology expanded globally. Also, MOLI actually holding World Smart City Expo on an annual basis since 2018. KC network. Oh, all right. Wow. So I'm gonna let me skip some of that. The Kaya, it's like MOLI actually have a 10-year R&D framework based upon several strategies. The main strategy is a digital transformation and climate change and net zero, the quality of life. And also, we actually started like a bilateral R&D, multilateral R&D, and then bottom level R&D. The diverse type of R&D and global R&D research work that's been started from 2024 this year. We newly started bilateral joint R&D with Innovate UK. So South Korea and the UK actually have a joint research program started from this year that will last until 2027. Multilateral joint R&D. We all know that Korea actually joined the Horizon Europe, so as an associate member, so the Korea will be becoming officially the associate member from 2025. So Korean researcher will be freely make a consortium to participate in the joint call. On top of that, there is a European partnership program with a special themes. MOLI actually joined the Europe Partnership Program named DUT, Driving Urban Transition, and set Clean Energy Transition. That's a separate funds being allocated to make a joint call. There's a separate funds, separate secretariat offices being operated. So now we allocated some funds to provide support for this European Partnership Program. This is the concept I actually want to introduce today. This is innovation cluster concept we are currently planning on as a format of international collaboration program for Korea. Because rather than having a one-to-one partnership, one-to-one relationship research, we want to bring sort of a cluster type, like that actually encompassing various players like research institutes, companies, startups, or governments, legal authorities. So that Korean cluster can actually have the counterpart cluster overseas. So cluster-to-cluster collaboration can take place in this sense. So in the mechanism, what we're trying to, I'm going to skip that because that's a UK-SK. UK actually recently developed that kind of a city-to-city program between the cities in the UK and the cities in South Korea. The Jeeseung and Belfast in Northern Ireland actually make them some, sort of a pilot research because they have a similar size, similar population, similar backgrounds. So they brought up the priority roadmap together, the common goal and common roadmap, which includes the smart city cluster mission, or that includes cyber cities, security, 5G, etc. So what we're trying to propose is it's just like an example that, because for example, Busan actually has an Eco Delta city where there are smart villages over there. And in Helsinki, for example, in Finland, have Kalasatama, also they have a living lab is in operation. So if we can have the smart Busan Eco Delta and Kalasatama programs joined together to have some technology cross demonstration take place, or bring up the synergy throughout that kind of collaboration, that will be a quite good concept out of this. So we are currently working on developing that concept of integer collaboration, the city-to-city program. So if you have any, because we are the funding and managing agency, so we have a bunch of researchers over here. So if you have any good ideas, we are quite open to have a discussion. So that plan can be reflected to our proposal next year to discuss with our government for funding for this one. Okay, thank you very much. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks a lot for this presentation. So probably a lot of ideas and directions for forthcoming projects, which is something we are looking for in InPace. What are going to be the next pilots for the project? What could be helped by the project? The project will not deploy pilot itself, but aim at supporting pilots that may happen in other places. So this is exactly the kind of interactions we are looking for. Last but not least, Mr. Jeong Hyeok, who will present us what is happening, or ideas for the digital twin campus that was nicely introduced yesterday evening through the signature of a MOU with the InPace project. Jeong, floor is yours.
Hello, I'm Jae Kim from Sejong University. Welcome to Sejong University. And I'm reading the IoT course, the small university. It's an open university. And I'm also leading the research center for the auto twin technology. Today I want to introduce our digital twin campus named Meta Sejong. Yeah. Okay. Imagine 2045. So what is real? Yeah. In the future, I think our world is the converged world between the physical world and the virtual world. So we are now living in the second phase, like this, partially. Partially merged the physical world and the virtual world. And we are now heading to the page 3. So the figure on the right is our concept of the future, the world. In this world, the physical world and the virtual world are connected by the new technologies such as IoT and AI and cloud and XR technology. So as testbed for the future city, we built digital twin campus named Meta Sejong. This is Meta Sejong. So this is the snapshot of the Meta Sejong. You can see we are in here, this building, and we have some other buildings in the center of Seoul. Okay, to provide the test bed, we have the many computing infrastructure and software platform. So in this IoT platform is based on the ONM2M standard, and this data hub is based on the Smart City Data Hub, based on the NGSLD interface. So, okay. And we use the ISAC SIM from the NVIDIA. And we have two data sets for our testbed. The first one is point cloud data set. This data set is scanned using this the high resolution, the scanner. Okay, the second one is it's modeled in using the Unreal engine, Unreal environment, based on the BIM and the image. Okay, this is we can see the robot movement in this test bed. And this is the modeled digital twin, and this is the indoor test bed. Okay. Okay. And we have the one more key feature. It is synchronization function between the physical world and the virtual world. To support this, we have three hardware platforms. The first one is device platform. The device platform has a camera and MPU, the smaller MPU, and the computing and communication board. And the other one is the edge platform. Also has the accelerator board for AI function. And other one is the last one is the server platform with the many GPU servers. This is the concept. This is our reference system architecture to synchronize the physical world and the virtual world. Based on this reference model, we provide the synchronization of the virtual space and the real space, and things also, and human. It's a small demo. This is real. This is student, and this is the digital twin space. Okay. So today, I want to propose the federated testbed and challenges. So I'm referring to the embodied AI challenges in the CVPR embodied AI workshop. So embodied means the integrated AI, integrate AI into the physical entity like the robots. So the previous AI is just AI in the internet side, and the embodied AI is with some entity, physical entity. In this, the challenge, the embodied AI challenge has the 6 sub challenges like this. Each sub challenges has the different data set and different task to solve. This slide for more information. You can see the more information using this reference, the site. Okay. So this is the sub-challenge. Okay, so I want to propose the federate testbed and challenges. So to connect our testbed using this challenge program. So now we are using the Isaac Sim and drone and robots and the Meta Sejong testbed for these challenges. So next we will start this challenge in the Sejong University. So we provided the IoT course. Yesterday we got the MOU. The IoT course provided some fund for this challenge. Okay, this is the candidate missions in the Meta Sejong. And the other one, this take a picture and find the location in the virtual world, and the drones can support some situation. Okay, the next one is the simulated world. We can, yeah. Okay, I'll stop. Okay. Here. You can count in the virtual world how many fruits in the smartphone. This is drone. Drone is autonomous to find and take the picture and the count the fruits. Okay. This scenario is a warehouse management, and this is some other cases. Okay. Okay, that's all. I stop here. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot. So again, some ideas for potential collaborations and a call for these testbed federations. So we have now to investigate in Europe how to put that into practice. I will leave the floor maybe to my colleague, Dr. Shaw. So we'll try to do a summary of the session because we are a bit short of time. So unfortunately, no real time for questions, or Antonis will kill me. But I assume that there are many topics where you would be encouraged to discuss after the session. So
Okay, thank you, Frank. It's in a short time, maybe 1 hour. So we experienced so many concepts and ideas, and it's a demonstration for smart cities. So thinking about this, smart, sustainable city means what? Basically, we're thinking about the word smartness needs some technology and intelligence and advanced civilization. But thinking about the sustainability, we would like to preserve the nature and old fashions. So how can we combine these smart and sustainable for cities? It's very difficult. So this style of smart city depends on the city culture and city framework and city, the history and, the DNA, we call it DNA. So maybe there are so many definitions for smart cities in the world. So everyone thinks smart city differently, I think. So this time we focus on the concept of smart city and the value of a smart city. We cover so many terminology, data space and platform and living lab, AI. So my question is like this. How can we persuade our concept, our theory, our scientific way to public? They believe in the future, in short time, this kind of smart city will come true, just in 5 years or 10 years. Thinking about my experience, I started the smart cities 2004. I designed the ubiquitous city in Korea, and I proposed a platform, combined platform for smart cities, connectivity, the criminal protections, and monitoring the transportation. How can improve the quality of life by smart city, ubiquitous city? So thinking about the future, when we are adopting the AI, how can we improve our quality of life, and how can we make some more happy well-being conditions? So my question is like this. How can we improve, or how can we implement these kinds of concepts to the real world? That is one question for our presenters. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you. One short statement for each of the presenter, maybe to answer that question, and then we'll have to close the session, unfortunately, otherwise we'll never manage to make it. But I feel I have to leave the floor still for our speaker, and I will come here to put some pressure on them. So maybe to have one short statement. Who want to start? Or to put this into practice, all these questions which were raised. And
So I think the concern here is that building the smart and sustainability it's much more challenging, and how do we achieve this? And if we actually look into one of the cases where I'll just put an example here. So the construction sector right now is responsible for 48% of the global carbon emissions. And there is a massive activity going on in that sector to collect the data. And if I actually go a little bit into a direction of what Europe is doing, so Europe imports almost 80% of the steel, which is happening. And steel is one of the highest, steel and concrete are one of the highest blamers for all these things. But still, we need to understand exactly on this. And the cities needs the construction, because cities are growing, people are moving into cities. But then again, how do we basically combine this sustainability data is that we need to collect all this data and reliably and provide this to different platforms. Only then we can actually combine the smart and sustainability together. So this is my take on it. And this needs to happen cross-sectorial. Transportation, just an example is that transportation, factory, producer, and all this. So unless we achieve this cross-sectorial interoperability and the data sharing, we will really not be able to achieve this one. Did I answer your question? Or?
Thank you, Chandra. One more?
Well, was a particular question, or you just want me to elaborate on something, or ask? Oh, okay. Well, I mean, I think if I remember this morning, right, there was a lot of concern about sort of policy engagement not really making much progress. I mean, the TTC, for example, I think somebody said, there's no level of engagement, and there's a lot of discussion about India, and I think frankly, it's going to take a while if we think of it really from a policy framework point of view. I think a lot of these things happen much faster organically, bottom up, than driven from the top. And what I would very much advocate is really, let's start working together on a bilateral or trilateral, whatever basis, and doing something together, right? I mean, and I have specifically, I think the thing that I was trying to suggest is working on a privacy framework, right? A privacy because I think both. Well, obviously there's GDPR in the EU that's been there for many, many years. India has just issued something called the Data Privacy Bill, DPDP Act, which will be kind of put into regulation very soon. And that kind of mandates the way in which data is going to be used, and particularly personal data. And to the extent that we can bring technical solutions, right? I mean, I understand technology is not the solution to everything, but there are technology solutions that have kind of matured at this point, cryptographic solutions, which can be employed to really make sure that the data that's either going in or coming out of AI models conforms to these various privacy regulations. So let's, I think, collaborate to try to figure out how we can build an open source platform that we can all kind of understand and completely transparent. And we start asking that platform be part of any AI type solution that involves data sharing and data across sovereign boundaries.
Okay, thank you. And I think one of the interests of open source also is to sometimes ease the finding of vulnerabilities. No, not allowed. Sorry.
I just wanted to add also that open source with an open standards is very important. And I think both of them go line in line. So it's in hand. So.
Yeah, thank you. Dr. Park, you want to add something?
Okay, actually, I don't know. Probably the best way to achieve the smart city to improve quality of life. Your question is very philosophical and profound question. So, but I think since cities aren't built overnight, I believe our generation should do its best to incorporate philosophy and technology to the extent we can, and leave the rest for the future generation to continue. However, to do our best in the present, I think it is important to have clear understanding of the current status. As I mentioned in my presentation, cities can often said to be built by both the public and private sectors, but I believe cities also built together by current and future generations. That's
okay, thanks a lot. Anything else you would like to add on your side? Or you are well synchronized, I can assume so. I wanted to close the meeting, but I got the request for one, and then a second question, and even a third one. And as it comes from the project coordinator, I can't refuse.
Okay, I would like to answer to your question because I think you somehow did not. I think there are two essential points. Point one is the smart city must offer benefits which people recognize as benefits. And point B, it must be economically viable. Okay, somebody must pay for it. You can do demonstration projects, but at the end of the day, you have to see who will be willing to invest, who will be willing to pay for the services.
Thank you. I wanted to add the perspective of in pace, okay? So we have a broad political framework. Priority is smart city, right? It's very broad. Then this is top down. Then we have plenty of initiatives and plenty of projects which are great, right? So, and then of course, in-pace can empower this project without too much input, let's say, okay, making some visibility, showcasing for you and your partners, European partners, so on. Now, the question is how to select what we can really facilitate and invest a bit from in pace. You see, this is extra. And in my opinion, I just realized this, because we cannot, support all different initiatives which are great. I think the criteria, and this is a bit what you just said, I'll say from in pace perspective. Maybe this is, so first, it should be relevant to digital partnership because we're supporting this. Second, it should be a priority for, in this case, Korea and Europe. And third, it should be impactful, right? So it means as a result of this activity, which we will support together, which will facilitate, there should be benefits for citizens, for industry, for whoever. So I think this impactful criteria, this should be taken into account, right? Because we can do plenty of things, but at the end, so the outcome, what is the real outcome on industry, how it will help, or on citizens, or populate, on different levels, right? And this is maybe what we should take into account. Again, PACE can empower quite easily through the community later, but in terms of facilitation, maybe we should take into account this impactful criteria, together, right? And to discuss about this, just a sharing thought.
Okay.
I'm done.
Thank you, Zvitlana. I'm here because I always wanted to maybe raise the questions, so which will be the closing one, otherwise we will never finish. And then we'll have then the other session afterwards.
It's a very short question. I actually appreciate everything that you presented, and as engineer, I loved it. Unfortunately, I have been working with some governments, and there is something that the governments have, which is budget. Now, if I'm a mayor, I have to choose. I have to choose between roads. I have to choose between hospitals and health centers. I have to choose with police funding or building a new garden. So on your examples, if I am the mayor, why should I pay you? Instead of spending money on other things which are also useful for my city.
Thank you. You can just answer in there while I go down, and then we will stop.
Is there you want me to answer the question, or at least from my perspective? I don't know. I mean, I'm sure others have. I mean, it's like any other investment. You look at it from a cost-benefit point of view, right? So I mean, for example, we give you an example. We are working in the city of Varanasi, right, in India, and we are using one of our partners is actually taking data that's coming through our platform. From all the garbage, smart garbage receptacles that are distributed across the city, from the garbage pickup vehicles, and they are creating an optimized pickup route every day, right? So rather than the garbage being picked up in a particular pattern, it's picked up in an optimized way, taking into account things like where was the festival held recently, so maybe there's more garbage there, right? So you kind of go there. You're looking at cameras to determine crowd density, right? And going there, right? So you can basically pick up the garbage in an optimized way. By doing that, they have shown they reduce the cost, right, by 30%, right? So that's a direct ROI. Right? You don't need to kind of figure out, hey, look, how am I going to justify this? By the end of the year, whatever investment you've made is paid for itself, right? So there are lots of low-hanging fruit like that, where you can look at technical solutions to solve very specific problems and have an ROI that closes in a relatively short period of time.
Thanks a lot. And IT costs almost nothing compared to infrastructure. So.
Yeah, and I think I can give you 3 or 4 examples later. But.
Yeah, yes, because there are many examples. So I suggest that we close here, because otherwise the next 2 moderators, Jaeseung and Antonis, will really kill me. At least in the meantime, I think all files got prepared, so it should be okay. I thank you again, all presenters, for your presentation and interesting.